We're on a mission from God.
Wendy?
So I got that going for me.
Darling?
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Light of my life.
We enjoy your films.
I am a human being.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in real time. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today marks the 40th anniversary of the release of Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown, and Don't Come Back on May 30th, 1980. Yes, this was released in theaters. It was written by Charles Schulz based on his own comic strip Peanuts, directed by Bill Melendez and Phil Roman, and released by Paramount Pictures. For some reason, it is the fourth and final theatrical Peanuts story until the 2015 CG reboot.
So there were four that were theatrically released?
Yes.
That's impressive. I thought they were all TV movies until you told me I had to watch this.
Well, a quick IMDb search reveals that there's about 30 of these. So 4 of them were in theaters and the rest were just on TV.
I only ever watched The Great Pumpkin as a kid.
I watched that and the Christmas one where they get the
Oh, yes,
treat.
and the Christmas one. Yes, those were the only two that I've ever seen before this one.
Yeah.
And the one where Linus has a girlfriend who has cancer.
What?
Yeah, that's the one I always remember.
What? That's really the plot?
Yeah, like she like loses her hair from the chemo.
So she looks like all the other
everyone
characters?
Makes fun of her. Yeah, it's like...
Wait,
Charlie Brown doesn't have any hair.
Wait, did you guys plan this to like tell me fake Charlie Brown stories?
No. Anyway, my favorite one was the Arbor Day special. There probably is one. It's not even a funny joke because they're all just like, what's a holiday? Happy Valentine's Day, Charlie Brown.
You suck and we all hate you. But you're the main character, I guess.
A car pulls away from a farmhouse on a rainy night. We follow the car to another building and push into a lit attic window where a girl is holding a bag that says S. Brown on it. And she's writing a letter to Charlie Brown, relative of S. Brown, in French. Back in America, Linus is introducing exchange students from Europe, Babette and Jacques. They'll be here for 2 weeks, and Charlie and Linus will go to France for 2 weeks. Charlie seems surprised by this, as though it were not planned, and he is being forced against his will to go to France.
As if he doesn't suddenly have to get a passport and do all these things that would be required of him.
To leave the country for the first time.
Well,
Unchaperoned.
I'm pretty sure you had to volunteer for these exchange programs as well.
No. They volunteer you. In Soviet Russia. Oh wait, this is communist Europe. It's not communist. He tells Snoopy and Woodstock to pack because he's bringing a dog and a bird to France.
I guess they're the chaperone?
Yes. He gets a letter in the mail. It's in French, so he can't read it. And he's being very protective of the letter despite not being able to read it. When the phone rings...
Well, this is his first letter ever, he said.
Yeah. He
had never received a letter before.
Yeah.
This is a sad, sad man.
Yeah, he's 0 for 1 on letters that he can read. Peppermint Patty calls, and her and Marcie have been selected by their school, which they don't go to the same school.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Either way. I mean, they see each other a lot for kids who don't go to the same school.
Well, I think they're all neighbors. I don't know.
So wouldn't they be in the same district? I don't know.
Who knows?
Either way, they've been selected by the same program to go to France. There's a really terrible line read here where it just sounds like a kid's reading off a piece of paper.
Well, that's what they are doing.
Yeah. But he just goes, Linus and I have been chosen to go to Europe as part of a student exchange program. Patty is disappointed that she's not as special as she thought because other people get to do this. Snoopy packs too much shit, mostly sports equipment. Mm-hmm. Like just lots of many different sports equipment.
Golf clubs and rackets.
Yeah. Patty and Marcie pack their things, and as they're leaving the house, Patty drops her luggage on herself. And that's funny, I guess. The class sees Charlie off at the airport. Sally is telling him not to worry about the sports team that he's on because the last time he left town, they won 3 games in a row without him. The class all shouts the title.
Bon voyage, Charlie Brown!
and screw the other 3 kids. Mm-hmm. Their names aren't important, I guess.
Because all these other characters that you know and love, like
Lucy and Sally and all these other kids are just going to stay home.
Yeah.
We're
Who
not gonna-
cares about them?
Schroeder.
Schrodinger. The guy who is or is not playing the piano. Snoopy is excited about the in-flight menu, which is like really fancy for some reason. Like they're not in first class, but
He is.
is he?
Yeah, he is.
He had
I
a
missed that.
first class.
That's why they were like, this is a weird situation where Snoopy seems to have a ridiculously large amount of money
Yeah.
for no apparent reason.
Well, yeah. So he's in first class and he's reading this beautiful illustrated menu with all these fancy meals on it. And we're given a lot of time to be able to read this entire menu for some reason, even though there's no jokes in it. It just looks like a regular menu.
Mm-hmm.
A flight attendant passing by is either a child or the first adult that I've understood in this whole franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is notable in this movie that there are several occasions where we have adults talking and we can understand them, and that is a departure from the other movies.
Do we know that they are adults,
Yes,
though?
they
Okay.
are adults.
Yeah, because the ticket agent also spoke to them.
Right, yeah. Oh, and at customs.
Have you made your selection, sir?
But yeah, for some reason, Snoopy knows that dogs are allowed in first class, but birds are not. And so he hides the bird, Woodstock, in his ashtray.
Is it that birds are not allowed, or is it that he didn't buy a ticket for this bird?
Do you need a ticket for a bird?
I don't know. He's a dog.
But wasn't the whole point of one of the Charlie Brown movies, no dogs allowed?
But also
every time Snoopy tried to go somewhere, there was always a dog sign and they would always play that music cue.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I guess he can fly first class
Yeah.
and drive a car.
And if he's rich, he could afford a ticket for Woodstock. He just didn't care enough about his friend.
I don't know. But he sticks him in the ashtray.
He
There's
keeps
an
sticking him in the
ashtray on
ashtray. Yeah. And then eventually the bird gets out and splits Snoopy's delicious meal with him. Marcie can speak French and offers to translate Charlie Brown's letter for him on the plane. It's from a girl named Violette. And she says that she has known about Charlie all of her life and is looking forward to meeting him, which will make more sense later, but still weird.
Yeah, I would have been creeped out by this and be like, yeah, I'm not going to stay with
I'm not
this
going to
creepy
your
person.
creepy chateau. What is this like? What was that Eli Roth movie, Hostel?
Yeah.
Is that what's happening here?
The chateau of the bad neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a good sign either. But
Although it's a great name for a wine.
yeah. I guess there's no fences there, right? Because fences make good neighbors. The in-flight movie options are Laughing Bunnies or Naughty Marietta. And Patty says she's going to go watch the porn-sounding one, which is apparently a real movie that Warner Brothers released in 1935. Laughing Bunnies, which does not sound like a real movie, has a Paramount logo in front of it, and then it just cuts to bunnies laughing in a circle. At customs, Charlie panics for some reason because he's being interrogated by an adult and he thinks he's being prosecuted, and he throws himself at the mercy of the court. But then they go through customs, and that's done. Patty gets stuck on the luggage carousel, and Snoopy laughs at her, and then also gets stuck on the luggage carousel. Snoopy parts ways with them here to go to Wimbledon, where he plays tennis poorly for a while. All the kids go to a pub to get food, but they can't understand the staff of the pub. I think they're in Britain right now.
Correct.
They had a layover there, or
no, they're taking the train to the channel.
Yeah. So, but
no, there's no channel at this point.
Oh, but
they took a hovercraft.
Oh, hovercraft. That's right.
Yeah.
a hovercraft.
I just remember.
I missed that.
You missed the hovercraft? It's weird because it looks like it just goes over land.
I think that my grandkids will not believe me when I tell them that there was a time where the channel didn't exist yet, but we had hovercrafts. But anyway.
We still have hovercrafts now.
Yeah.
You can take them to Catalina.
Not anymore.
All right,
They're not allowed anymore. They can't understand the staff at this pub because they're speaking in such like thick Cockney accent.
You ready to order?
Can you help us with the menu?
For the gentleman, I recommend the beef and kidney pie. The shepherd pie is rather nice for the lady. The cheddar and pickle sandwich is rather top-o. What be your pleasure, ma'am?
Wow, it's too bad we didn't bring anyone who spoke British.
Yeah, I should have studied English instead.
Then the kids get on. I thought it was a train to Dover. Is this the hovercraft?
Yeah, no. They take
a train to Dover.
They do take
first.
a train all the way from London to Dover.
And then they get on hovercraft.
Right, and then in Dover they get on a hovercraft because the channel didn't exist in 1980.
And then they rent a car. Children are allowed to rent a car.
I remember taking the channel not long after it opened. It was in the 90s, right?
Yeah, I definitely went through it in the 90s, in like the mid-90s, I would say.
I've never left the hemisphere.
We keep him chained in our
I
garage.
haven't left the northern hemisphere.
Oh. I've been to, I have been to the southern, so I got you. I got you.
You went to South America, huh? That's where you shit all over the place. That's not going to be an episode.
It's definitely going to be in the episode.
True story.
True story, folks. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Children rent a car.
They don't rent a car. The dog rents a car.
Okay. You're right. I was being ridiculous. They stop by a bakery where Charlie buys a baguette and accidentally breaks it in the doorway on his way out. So he throws it into the sky. He just sneezes and throws 3 pieces of bread in the air and they never come down. So he buys another piece of bread. Just lazy animation and writing. Pierre welcomes Patty and Marcie to his country.
No. Because
Okay,
then he takes the bread out.
Right.
He figures out that if you hold it upright, you won't smash it in the doorway when
Right,
you leave.
yes.
And then he takes it outside, and they were trying to fix the car, and the car hood cuts the bread in half.
Yeah.
And so then he
Eats
just...
some of the bread.
No, he just doesn't eat any of it, and everybody else eats the rest of the bread.
Yeah. But they tell him that the car's working a lot better since he fed some bread to it, basically. Pierre welcomes Patty and Marcie to his country, and Charlie and the rest of them continue on to the chateau of the bad neighbor. Pierre thinks that that's terrible and that they may be in danger.
Danger?
Charlie and friends get to the chateau late at night in rain because we need to reuse shots of the chateau from earlier late at night in rain. And they stop at a bridge to get struck by lightning. And then they go to the chateau, but the door's locked, so they decide to just camp outside. They didn't bring camping equipment with them, so they just set up and sleep in the mud and rain.
Well, they're like in a stable.
Yeah.
But then Snoopy goes out to a pub, and this whole scene goes on forever.
Yes, it does. He goes and gets wasted on root beer and dances in a sports bar for hours. And I don't mean like in the movie it was hours. I mean like in real life. And this is a 75-minute movie, and he does it for hours. The kids wake up, and there's food and blankets. And then Snoopy comes back all like hungover, decides to go to sleep. Patty thinks that Pierre likes her, even though he seems to like Marcie.
Also, it's really hard to understand, but apparently whenever Pierre is speaking English, he's actually speaking French. And we're only getting the benefit of the translation from Marcie's perspective.
Oh, okay.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah, because she keeps talking to him and he keeps talking to her, but they don't understand. Peppermint Patty doesn't understand what he's saying.
I thought she was just ignoring him like an idiot.
No, I think he's speaking English, but just with a very, very heavy French accent.
Okay. I thought the whole thing was
I think you're thinking too hard about this.
Because he speaks English to the people on the phone as well.
Yeah, I don't remember him speaking any French.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like there's some kind of thing happening here, but maybe I'm reading too much. I'm giving this movie a lot of credit.
Yeah, that's too much credit.
They have breakfast soup, which Patty thinks is gross.
I have breakfast soup all the time.
Yeah.
It's called cereal.
Yeah. It's a savory milk. Yeah. They dress weird for school because that's what people do in Europe. They dress weird for school. So it's okay because everyone's going to be dressed weird, so you won't stand out. Pierre gives the exact same bad neighbor monologue again about how they're terrible people and the Baron doesn't like anybody, so don't go over there. The Baron is a violent person. He ate everybody.
Ate?
That's what he says.
Yeah.
It's this French accent changing the word hate to ate. So he's like,
The Baron is a very violent person. He ate everybody.
it just makes it sound like this is literally a cannibal Baron. Charlie and Patty sit next to each other. 5 minutes pass in the film. In real life, 5 minutes pass while they're sitting next to each other and nothing happens.
Is this where she's just talking at him, telling him...
And no jokes are being shared. They're just talking.
The joke seems to be that everyone is really horribly mean to Charlie Brown, and why he's friends with these people, I'll never understand.
Yeah. And the other part of the joke is that Patty is dumb and doesn't follow the rules. When they get back to the chateau, the beds are made and there's food again, but they still have to sleep outside.
Yeah,
so
their barnyard
thanks.
beds are made.
Thanks so much. Snoopy leaves to get drunk again. Violette, the person who's presumably been replacing their beds and food, tries to help again that night. And the Baron says, you need to get these people to fucking leave my property. This is driving me crazy having a bunch of Americans in the yard. And I wish you didn't invite them. He says 5 or 10 times that he will get rid of the Americans and that it's time for them to go. Then he goes to the bar where Snoopy's getting drunk. And he tells the bartender, there's a bunch of Americans in my yard and I'm going to get rid of them. I'm going to get rid of them. I'm going to get rid of them over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Then we cut back to Linus sneaking into the house because they left the door unlocked or something. Somehow he gets in.
Yeah.
And he meets Violette, the girl who invited them. And she says, I'm sorry, the Baron hates you. But I have this bag from Silas Brown, who was Charlie's grandfather. And he and her grandmother were friends. And they were pen pals who eventually stopped writing, but she never forgot him. We cut back to the bar where the Baron tells the bartender again, 5 or 10 more times, that he's going to get rid of these Americans.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Snoopy's even paying attention. Like, it's supposed to look like he's eavesdropping and hears that someone's going to come and hurt them, but he doesn't do anything with this information and he doesn't react like he's hearing it. So I don't know why this is happening.
But this is Charlie's cousin, right? Because the implication is that her grandmother had a thing with Charlie Brown and
No, they're not cousins.
They're not related.
I assume that the Baron is Violette's grandfather.
No, it's her uncle.
It's her uncle. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, it's her uncle. Okay, so her grandfather is the one that her grandma married instead of Silas.
Correct.
Right.
But I don't think they had any children
together. She was pregnant with Silas's baby at the time.
No.
Whoa.
This is another jump you're making.
I feel like that's exactly where the connection this movie was supposed to be.
And that's why the uncle doesn't like him?
Well, and that's why the grandmother was so upset when the letters stopped.
She's like, no, you don't understand.
You're going to come and see your child, right? Nope.
But, yeah, so the Baron keeps saying he's going to kill all these children. He doesn't say it like that, but...
And he's also the only character who's, like, in silhouette.
Yeah, they forgot to animate him.
Yeah.
They just left that space blank on the page. That's how animation works, right? It's all black and then you color it in.
They made a lot of very specific limited animation choices in this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, so he talks to the girl a little bit and they hear the Baron coming home and she freaks out and drops the candle she's been carrying around and sets the chateau on fire. Linus calls down to Charlie for like 25 goddamn seconds. Charlie runs to the bar for some reason and shouts at the closed door to the place. He like runs down the street and down to the bar, and then he goes up to the door and he says, "Help, help," to a closed door. And then Snoopy comes out of it.
That would be the cheapest way to animate that.
Yeah, it's like, but the door still opens. It's like, just have the character touch the handle. Just touch the handle and then open the door and shout. Instead, he shouts at a closed door until Snoopy bursts out and runs to like the garage next door to grab a fire hose with a pump that was in there, and he rolls it out to the place and tries to put out the fire. The Baron just runs back and forth in his own front yard shouting fire to no one in particular this whole time that other people are actually acting to put the fire out. The kids get together and they use Linus's blanket to catch the girl jumping from the top of the building so that she's safe, but they just leave Linus up there.
Right, I don't understand this.
Like
they
he threw his blanket down.
Right, they immediately walk away with the blanket, not having gotten Linus.
Yeah, and then they cut to him just standing in a window frame as the building's burning down behind him, going, "Guys, what, guys? Can't you help me too?"
Cuts straight to the ashes of skeleton just laying there.
But wearing the clothes that he was wearing. It's like, don't go in the house. They put the fire out, and the Baron says, "I've learned so much. These American children came here, and they burned my house down, and I'll love them forever."
Why did he hate them originally? Who knows?
Does
Why
it really
does he
matter?
like them now that they started a fire and put it out?
Who knows? Here's the thing, though. He loves them now. And we'll never see him again. We're just taking Violet's word for it that he doesn't hate them now because he's not in any more of the movie. Yeah, so this would have been where you should have revealed the whole backstory, but instead you revealed it earlier. So the only new info that we're getting from this conversation is, the way I found you is someone from my family got their haircut in your town from your dad. And then he was like, oh yeah, that's my dad you're talking about. And so I wrote you a letter to come and visit us.
Even though I've known you my whole life.
And I didn't ask anyone if you could come here. And I didn't have anything to provide for you. And I made you sleep in my yard for 3 days.
The school paid for everything.
So now it's time to leave. It's been the 48 hours that an exchange student stays in another country. Even though we covered that it's supposed to be 2 weeks. Violet kisses Charlie on his way out, and he's very embarrassed about it, as Charlie is wont to be. Patty tries to kiss Pierre, but closes her eyes, and Snoopy intercepts the kiss. She tells Pierre that he's a good kisser, but she has to go, while Pierre's hugging Marcie because he clearly likes Marcie and doesn't care about her. And then we get illustrations of the crew over the credits, which I thought was neat.
Yeah, it was nice. And clearly, Peppermint Patty is in love with Marcie.
Right.
That's a thing, right?
Yes.
I'm not crazy.
No, for sure. Jesse knows someone who does Peppermint Patty's voice, and some
I thought, I was like, oh, good, we got a movie where I know the person.
He doesn't do it here,
movie.
but
yeah. So my one of my former bosses, the former CEO of DreamWorks, Christofaria, did play Peppermint Patty for several iterations of these
as
Snoopy
a child,
movies.
I assume.
I think he was a teenager.
Oh, okay. This was directed by Bill Melendez, who was an animator on Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, Bambi. He provides the voice of Snoopy and Woodstock in many iterations of the Peanuts films and TV shows, including archival tracks that were used for the 2018 or the 2015 reboot. Co-director Phil Roman is the founder of Film Roman, which sounds like his name, which obviously produced The Simpsons and King of the Hill, other great stuff. Writer Charles Schulz was a cartoonist and creator of Peanuts. Daniel Anderson does the voice of Linus here, and Linus and other things. That's going to be the same going down the line.
Everybody's credit
here.
for everyone in this movie.
Scott Beach plays the waiter, the baron, the driver, the tennis announcer, an English voice, and an American voice. And he played Mayor Grundy in Stand By Me. He played the judge in Mrs. Doubtfire, and he's a stormtrooper in A New Hope. Casey Carlson is Marcie here and other places. The person doing the voice of Patricia, Peppermint Patty Reichardt, is named Patricia Patz.
Huh. It's a real name, not a real name?
That's her IMDb name, and just this is her only credit, despite sharing the character's exact name.
So you think
she didn't voice this character in anything else?
So you think it's like a stage name that she had for this role, so she didn't get credited as?
Maybe they hated the person who did maybe they hated Christofaria so much that they replaced his name with Patricia Patz in the credits.
Yeah, maybe it is him.
Yeah, maybe it is.
And he was just like, I've had enough of this.
You'll have to ask him. Laura Planting did the voice of Lucy Van Pelt in, I guess, the one scene that had Lucy here. She's also the voice of Lucy in other things, and Patty once. Aaron Skelley did the voice of Charlie Brown. He's also the voice of Charlie in other things. That's
in the Chocolate Factory?
No.
Not that one.
Not that one. But he was in Willy Wonka. No, that's not true either. Up or down, Jess?
That's it? That's all
we got? That's all I have to say about this.
All right. Well, so the only thing that I wanted to add before we get into this is these were definitely movies, of the time they came out. Like when they started coming out in the, mid to late 60s, this is the style it was. And I think this is very much fitting in with everything that had been done before. So I don't necessarily think it was a great movie for 1980. I think that it is in keeping with what the Peanuts movies are. So if you like the Peanuts movie, you might like this.
Sure.
I'm not going to recommend it.
I have never liked any of the Peanuts movies.
I like the Christmas one.
I'm going to say that I actually like the CG one. And
the CG one is actually great.
It's great. And I actually got the pleasure of seeing several people from Blue Sky come to DreamWorks and do a presentation. And I wish it was something that was recorded and sent out to the world, because what these guys did to make this movie,
to recreate the look of the original,
absolutely incredible. They broke everything that they could break in order to make the CG look like it looked in this movie. So they did crazy tricks. These characters are not designed in the round,
right,
which means that the way they look when you're looking at their profile does not match the design of the character when you're looking at them head on, which doesn't, so
it's like Peppa Pig.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't see Peppa Pig from the front. It can't happen.
You can't translate this
to... people clamoring for that?
I just want to see her from the front.
Maybe you should turn the TV off and go outside.
So you can't make a CG character out of this that works. And so, they had to have multiple rigs, and the rigs that they had to basically like break in order to get the features in the right position for the different scenes and staging of this film. So they basically also had to animate this movie twice. They went through and hand drew out what all of this movie was going to look like, and then essentially rotoed it with CG characters.
Which is kind of Klausy a little bit, the way they did Klaus for Netflix with 2D animation and then
but that was actually hand-drawn 2D animation, whereas this was, 2D drawn stills that they animated over top of with CG characters.
I think I also remember you saying that they, because of the forced perspective of like houses, they had to like push stuff like hundreds of feet back.
That's exactly it. They would make these like, in order to get the perspectives to work right, they would like make giant sets and then just use a lens to sort of compress the set down to make it have this really flat look to it. They had to animate it on 2s in order to have that, the look of the original animations. Basically, they took everything that is convenient about making a CG movie, like in-betweens and everything like actually being physically created and real, in terms of its size and shape. And they threw that out the window.
Yeah, so it was actually 10 times harder to animate in CG.
It was, and it's just amazing what they pulled off. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend you watch the CG one because it's an amazing feat that they got this look and style, and it's a really special looking film.
Yeah, and actually... I'll say that the script is actually much better than most of the Charlie Brown movies. This should have been a TV movie, probably. I think that they were stretching for time in a lot of places, and it undoubtedly was a TV movie at some point. And they were like, hey, Paramount said they have a slot in May, so maybe we could just throw this at them if we just, let's put this shot of the house in rain twice, and let's have him call down to Charlie Brown for an extra 20 seconds here.
Oh, well, people are still going to see Star Wars instead of this? Oh.
But this movie was very well received by critics at the time, probably just because they were used to Charles Schulz's output, and they were like, oh, it's another adorable Peanuts movie. It's just like all the other ones. And it's like they forgot that it was bad because they were too busy ripping on The Shining.
I think that you might have hit the nail on the head, though, is like, when everybody else was going to the theater to see Star Wars and to see The Shining, they had to put the younger kids somewhere.
Yeah.
So they stuck them in this movie.
Yeah. All right.
It's 75 minutes. They can see it twice. And then Star Wars will be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then we'll watch The Shining.
All that being said, it's a down for me.
Yeah, it's a down for me, too.
Yes, that would be a down for this and all Peanuts films that I have seen.
Letterboxd.
I haven't even thought about this yet. Ugh, God, where are we going to put this?
I'm pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I know where it's going.
It wasn't that bad, guys.
It was, though. I'll tell you mine.
All right, go. You tell me yours, and I'll tell you mine.
All right.
Whoa.
Mine, it's going to be second from the bottom. It's between home movies and Nothing Personal. It's worse than Nothing Personal, but better than Home Movies, which was made by students.
I have it third from the bottom.
Okay.
That's going to put it between Gorp and Serial. I would rather watch Gorp than this movie.
Oh, man. That's rough.
Whew, that is rough. I would never put just about anything below Gorp. I'm going to put this fourth from the bottom. It is better than home movies.
Yes.
And worse than Stunt Rock.
Okay.
I have Gorp and Nothing Personal underneath those.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. I also have it above home movies and below Stunt Rock, so that sounds fair to me. I think that's everything for this one. If you guys have any thoughts you'd like to share with us, we are Vintage Video Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Letterboxd, where, as I've said before, you can find each of our full movie rankings for the year. We can also be found at vintagevideopodcast.com. Please consider rating us on iTunes to help people find the show. And if you take the time to leave us a review, we will thank you personally in an upcoming episode. If you're feeling especially generous, you can support the show through patreon.com/vintagevideopodcast. Speaking of which, we'd like to send a shout out to Jason from the Surely You Can't Be Serious podcast for his kind iTunes review. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing Hollywood Knights with a K, which IMDb summarizes like so. Led by their comedic leader Turk, the Hollywood Knights Car Club raise hell throughout Beverly Hills on Halloween night, 1965. Sounds like a good movie to release in May? We leave you now with the trailer for Hollywood Knights.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Can I have your attention, please? I'm the advertising man for a very funny new movie called The Hollywood Knights. Come on. Now, wait a minute. We got a problem with the coming attractions. Hey, come on, will you? Give me a break. I'm on your side. The problem is they won't let me show you any of the good stuff. And believe me, it's really good. Like they won't let me show you what this Hollywood night peeping Tom with a Polaroid's taking pictures of. And I definitely can't show you what the cheerleader in the middle forgot to wear. But believe me, it raised more than a few eyebrows. This Hollywood night just did something really humiliating.
You are so immature.
I am not immature. Can I show you what it was? No way. You'll just have to guess why the heavyweight in the horn rims is having an attack, or why the cop is in the can and not on his beat.
Get back, Bimbo!
Or what's really being barbecued in the burning bag, or what the Hollywood Knights put in the punch to give it such a special tang.
I've had this taste in my mouth before.
No, they won't let me show you any of the really good stuff. But I can tell you that the movie shows everything.
Look, we're all in our underwear.
The Hollywood Knights is hysterically funny. Take it from me. Would I lie to you? It's a masterpiece. It's wild, it's sexy, it's outrageous, it's revolting. And so are the Hollywood Knights. But they're not just a movie. They're about as nice a bunch of guys you'd ever want to know. Good, clean American kids, fighting for truth, justice, and anything they can get away with.
I'll kill you! I'll kill all of you!
Parents groups are trying to stop them. The cops are trying to annihilate them. And only you can help. Force your way into the theaters. Save the Hollywood Knights. They do the same for you.
They knocked my pants off.